Same time that Nitro was getting kicked off, you hired J J Dillon to come down from WWF to WCW. Did you do that to kind of get insight about WWE contracts, or how did all that come about where you hired JJ? Do you recall?
I'll tell you exactly how it came about. And I've not talked about this much, and I've bit my tongue quite a bit when I heard some of the things that JJ has said and, whatever. And I look, I don't hold it against him. People do what they have to do and say what they have to say for whatever the reasons are. But I think if you talk to Kevin Nash, Kevin will probably remember it the way I do, or at least close. I didn't know who J.J. Dillon was, nor did I care, to be very frank. And that's, again, don't mean to be critical of him or dismiss him, because I just wasn't aware of him. Certainly had no inkling of who he was or what he did at WWE. Kevin Nash came to me, and this is when we started to grow. This is when, okay, now we've gone from being a kind of ramshackle. WCW was big in a lot of ways because it was Turner. It was, in some respects, it was kind of a big deal. But operationally, behind the curtain, it was just like, it was really dysfunctional. But as we got bigger and things started turning around and we started, tightening up the ship, so to speak, it became clear that we needed experienced people, in the office, in the field, as part of the wrestling side of the equation, not necessarily the accounting side or the marketing side, but of the wrestling side of the equation. And, that was obvious, and I acknowledged that we needed to do that. Well, Kevin Nash came to me, and for whatever reason, and I don't know why I didn't ask, he was tight with JJ. And he put JJ over to me and told me all the great things that, JJ could bring to the table. But he also said, look, this guy got fired. He's got children, or a child, I don't remember if it's more than one or just one, that is special needs, and he needs a gig. Again, my narrative is that I was, an arrogant, self-serving, egotistical, treated people badly. And in some cases I did, but not in JJ's case. I hired him sight unseen, made the decision to hire him sight unseen. A, because of a recommendation from Kevin, and B, because of of JJ's situation. It wasn't because I was trying to gain any insight. That's BS. And so much so. And this is why I lost respect for JJ almost immediately after I hired him. I didn't fire him. I didn't really. I kept his job that I had just brought back to Atlanta for. But I immediately lost respect for JJ shortly after I brought him in, when he pulled me aside. I mean, it might have been the same first week he was in the office. And he said, hey, you want to know what the guys in WWE are making? I've got all the records right here. And he opened up a folder, and there were handwritten notes in there. And not that I'm above playing dirty, because I can and I will to a certain point. But that crossed the line for me. It didn't feel right. It was wrong. And I said, no, JJ, I don't need it, but thanks. And that was it. As far as my respect for and really involvement with JJ, I didn't want to turn and fire him under the circumstances, but I didn't really want him involved too closely in my business either. But it certainly had nothing to do with me wanting to gain insight. That's just a false narrative that someone has created to make themselves feel better